first one says, what are positive and negative numbers? So I'm going to draw a number line because it's easier to visualize that. So remember, positive numbers are numbers that are to the right of 0 and have a greater value than 0. These are all your positive numbers, right? Your negative numbers, on the other hand, are to the left of 0 and have a value that's less than 0. And the further left you go, the less value it's going to have. And likewise, on the other side, sorry, not likewise, but on the other hand, on the other side, positive numbers, as you move to the right of 0, they increase in value. Okay, so just a little definition here. What are integers? Well, integers are, so remember your smallest set, right? Your smallest set were the counting numbers, or your natural numbers, right? And they were 1, 2, 3, etc., right? And you can count forever and ever, but they don't include any fractional parts. No fractional parts. And also no decimal parts, right? So that was our smallest set. And then right above that are your whole numbers. And your whole numbers were the counting and natural set, but with the inclusion of 0. And again, you can count forever. And again, no fractional and no decimal parts. The integers is a set right above that. So the integers are all your whole numbers, right? And I guess you can say they're additive inverse. So what's the additive inverse of 1? -1. Additive inverse of 2? -2. -3, and so forth. So that's what your integers are. Okay, 0, all your positive numbers, all your whole numbers, right? And they're additive inverse. So that would be your integers. Okay, and again, no fractional parts, no decimal parts. Okay. What are opposites? Are they always negatives? Are they always positive? Question mark. I forgot the question mark and explain. So opposites. Well, if you take the opposite of, let's define opposites first. Use a number line again. Here's a number line, and let's say somebody asks you for the opposite of -3. So, oops, +3. Well, the opposite of +3 is -3. Why? Because their distance from 0 are the same. So same distance. And again, same distance. So the opposite of 3 is -3. Well, it depends on what you ask first, right? If I ask for the opposite of -5, what's the opposite of -5? The opposite of -5 would be 5. So sometimes it could be positive. Sometimes it could be negative, depending on, right, the number you're starting with. Okay, the original number, I should say. Absolute value, is it always positive? No. Absolute value of a number. Absolute value of a number, let's call this y. It's always, the absolute value, it's always a non-negative number. So the absolute value is always a non-negative number. So that's what non-negative number. Let's take, well, and we also know that the absolute value also is measuring, right, the distance. Measuring the distance, a number is from 0, right? A number is from 0, and because from 0, and because distance can't be negative, distance, another thing, distance can't be negative, right? So, but it can be 0. So absolute value is all these. It's a value that's always a non-negative number. It's measured the distance a number is from 0, and distance, because distance can't be negative, it's always going to be 0 or a positive. Some examples. Let's say negative, sorry, let me put it here, negative 2.6. The absolute value, here there's a symbol, right? The absolute value of negative 2.6 is, well, what's this distance here to 0? Right? What is that distance? Well, that distance is 2.6. Let's say the absolute value of, what's the absolute value of 0? Absolute value of 0. So here's your number line, and then 0, and how far is 0 away from 0? It would be 0 units. What's the absolute value of 7? Right? This distance from 7 to 0 is 7 units. So the absolute value of 7 is 7. So it's not always positive. It can be 0. Okay. Put the numbers in order from greatest to least. You can use a number line. I think it's helpful because it's easier to visualize. So let's write 0, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, and on the other side, negative 10, negative 20, negative 30. So you draw a number line, and then let's figure out what the location of these numbers. So where is 12? 12 would be about here. Negative 24, so start counting, start from 0 and start counting. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 10. You keep on going, negative 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So negative 24 is about here. Negative 35, well, we were at negative 24, continue moving to the left, negative 30. Extend that number line, negative 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 would be about here. Negative 7, well, start at 0. Go left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So negative 7 is about here. 0 is just here, right? That's 0. And then we need one more, negative 11. Well, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11. So it's here's negative 11. So now they're asking you to put this in order from greatest to least. So which one has the greatest value here of all 6 numbers? Well, the greatest one is 12. And then it's 0. And then it's negative 7. And then it's negative 11. Negative 24. And negative 35. Right? So if you look at it vertically here, right, that also makes sense. Think about temperature. Right? The further up you go, the warmer it is, and the further down you go, the colder it is, and that gives you another way of looking at those numbers. Okay. Okay, Mary has 15 in her bank account. So if you have, I'm not too crazy about this question, but if you have money, if she has in her bank account $15 in bank, that's something positive, right? Because she owns it. So let's use 15, the positive 15 integer to represent that. Now, if you spend 25, right, that money is going away from you, right? You're losing that money. So let's represent this as an expression. So let's start with 15. Now, there's 2 ways of representing it. Spending can be shown as that, right? Subtraction. And then we can write the 25. So that would be an expression that we can use. But you can also use an addition to represent the same situation. So 15, and we can do, and remember we talked about subtraction being the same as adding the additive inverse of the second addend, so we can rewrite that as this. It's a matter of choice, whether you want to use this one or that one. So the first question is, how much does she have now? Well, 15 plus negative 25, well, so we can talk about, that the absolute value of negative 25 is greater, so we know the answer is going to be negative, and then we end up subtracting these 2, and we find that she has 10. Right, so remember I told you about subtraction. You have $15, and subtraction means I'm coming to you, and I'm going to remove, $25 away from you. Well, you don't have $25 for me to remove from you, but you do have the 15. And then that extra 10 that I still have to remove from you, you need to get it from someone. So think about you getting a little, you borrow it from your mom for a second and then you give it to me. Well, either way, at the end of the day, you owe somebody $10, right? Because you borrowed that extra $10 that you needed to pay me from your mom. So you're still in a debt situation. Okay? So now the second question says, how much does she need to get back to zero? So this is her bank account, right? She goes, puts her card into the ATM, the machine, and it shows that she has a -10. So how much does she need? Let me draw a number line here. So this is where she is at right now. What does she have to do to get back to at least to zero, where she doesn't owe money to anyone? Well, she needs to add that much, $10, to make her account go to zero, where she doesn't owe anything or she doesn't have anything. Let's evaluate these. -18 plus 25. So again, so many ways you want to think about this. You can think about their absolute values. You can use a number line. So I'll just do a little number line here. 0. So we're going to -18. That's where you're at. And then we're adding a positive number here. So that means we have to go to the right. So if at the end of 18, we're moving 25 steps, right? 25 units to the right. And that's going to take us to 7. So you can use that number line, right, when the numbers are small, or you can, again, think about their absolute values. In this case, the positives, right? This one is greater, so we know our answer is going to be positive, and then all we have to do is subtract those two. And then 25 minus 18 is 7, and likewise, we get the same answer. So a situation that we can use, we were talking about temperatures the other day, so think about this. We are at -18, and let's say we are in Anchorage, Alaska, and it's -18 degrees right now. And we're going to Colombia. We're going to Bogota. And the temperature in Bogota is definitely warmer, so it's going to go up, right? And that's what this is showing us. It's going to go up plus 25. So when you land in Bogota, what is the temperature? And it's 7. So that's a scenario that you can think about. All right. Next one, -3 and -9. So this one is interesting because they're both negatives. So you are at -3. So think about this. You're in debt at -3. I come to you and I want to remove positives away, something that you don't have positive. So $9. I want to remove $9 away from you, right? So if this question was 10 minus 9, sorry, right? You have $10. Here's your 10 integers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Your 10 positive integers, and I coming to you and I'm subtracting, I'm removing 9 of those positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if I remove all these 9, you're left with 1. Now, the problem here is you don't have any positives to begin with. All you have is this. So I can't remove those, but think about you having to borrow that 9 from somebody. So you go again to your mom and you said, Mr. Cho is coming to take 9 away from me, 9 positives. So if you borrow 9 positives from your mom, which you now have, right? So let's say you now have, and I come and take those from you, well, what ends up happening? Well, I took those 9, but you owe someone that extra 9 that you took. So you owe your mom 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So in reality, after you paid me, well, even though you paid me and I walked away happy, you are now in more debt, which means you are at -12. If you want to change that to an addition problem, right, you can change that to this. and it ends up being a negative plus a negative. So when adding two negatives, what ends up happening on the number line? You're moving further and further to the left, which means that you are more and more in debt. So you were at -3, right? That's where you were. And then from -3, you went even further left, 9 units to the left, and now you're at -12. 6 plus -11, okay, it's 6 plus -11, 6 plus -11. And again, you want to use a number line, you want to think of their absolute values, you want to think about, two groups, a group of positive, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know what, actually, I can use chips in this one. They're small enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if we wanted to do 0 pairs here, that would have been, easy enough because the numbers are small. So that's a 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair. So all those 6 pairs have a grand total value of 0. So what do you have left over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 negatives, and that's why your answer is negative. Number line, here's 0, here's 6. So you moved 6 units to the right, but then you're adding a negative, and when you're adding a negative, it means you're decreasing in value, so you have to go left. So from there, you're going to take 11 units to the right, and that lands you on -5. Okay. 9 minus 16, last one. So again, a lot of you might be comfortable in changing that to this, to adding the additive inverse of 16, which is -16. And then now you can draw a number line. I mean, you can do so many things. You can look at their absolute values. It's completely up to you. So in this case, let's just do it the easy way. We know the absolute value of -16 is greater, so we know it's going to be negative. We adding 9 to that, and it's going to give us -7. So quickly, number line, you're at 9, right? And then from 9, you're adding a negative, which means you've got to go that way, 16. And where does it land you? It lands you at -7. Oops, sorry, I forgot. So 9 minus 16, or 9 plus -16. So again, let's just talk about money. You have right now $9, right? That's how much you have in your wallet. And then you go to the mall, you see a t-shirt, and it costs $16. Well, you don't have $16, but you borrowed, right? You borrowed $7. So the $9, the t-shirt was $16. So how do you pay for that? Well, you ask your friend for $7. That means that the first $9, you're okay, because that's your money. But the second part of it, from here to here, the -7 part, represents the part that you borrowed. And that's what you end up owing. Okay. Temperature. Again, let's go backwards. Let's say you're in Rio, right? And in Rio right now it's 9 degrees Celsius, which is chilly. And what's happening to that temperature? It's going down, right? So from 9 degrees, it's going to drop 16 degrees. So if it drops 16 degrees, and let's pick a country, let's just pick New York, winter time, and it drops, and when you land in New York, what is the temperature? -7. Okay? That's it.